Hey everyone, how's it going? Decimus here with a new build video, this time for my Stamina Sorcerer, which I've been playing a lot on my streams. So this build is a very high mobility AoE burst build focused around AoE dots and the Azureblight set to enable high burst potential. You have a decent amount of healing, but keep in mind that this is not a tank build. What makes this build quite special is the lack of spammable and focus being more on charging people, seizing them with streak and dropping them with an execute after the Azureblight and dots drop them in range of reverse slice. Like most builds involving a proc set, this build performs best in noCP environment, and even though it is very AoE oriented, it performs very well in 1v1 encounters as well. So let's start with the gear. 5 pieces of Azureblight, the cornerstone of this build. This set functions kinda like a Stamina Vicious Death, except you don't need to kill people to proc it. Against a single target opponent, you can gain the 20 stacks required in just a few seconds, thanks to the amount of dots this build runs. And you can then empower it with a well-timed onslaught to deal a huge amount of burst to anyone. But where this set really shines is when you're proccing the set on multiple targets with AoE dots such as Hurricane, Deadly Cloak, Stampede, etc. and making them all explode for AoE damage on each other. There is no limit on how many targets you can apply the blight seed to, so the more people there are stacked, the more burst potential you have. 2 pieces of Krug. Krug deals decent damage, but more importantly, it also deals AoE dot damage to targets and thus helps proc Azureblight much faster than you would otherwise. Maelstrom 2HX deals very good damage over time and applies to everyone that takes damage from Stampede, meaning this is essentially another AoE dot for the Azureblight. Black Rose dual wield daggers add some survivability with the major protection, strong off-bar choice for any build. Since this bar is mostly used for buffs, the amount of damage performed that could proc the axe bleed is fairly minimal, so using daggers over axes or any other type of weapon is preferable in order to get more crit heals while on this bar. 3 agility, only 3 item slots left, so this set completes the gear step. All armor pieces should be impenetrable with triglyphs, the off-bar dual wield infused with absorb stamina for some extra sustain, and fire damage glyphs just so there's potential for burning status effect, which helps in proccing Azureblight faster. Main bar 2-8 should be Neon Hound. The glyph doesn't matter much since we're using double dot poison, but I would get poison glyph just in case the alchemical poisons run out mid-fight, for example. Note that while I still have robust chivalry, I think Triune would be somewhat more optimal due to the importance of magicka for Stamina Sorcerer. The glyphs should all be weapon damage. As food I run Orthoga's Smoked Bear Hound since magicka sustain is extremely important and it allows for highest density with stats. And as potions I run Tripods for even more sustain across all stats. The Mundus I'd recommend for this build is Serpent, just so that less dark deals are required and more magicka can be preserved for streak and race against time. Right, so let's move on to skills. On the main bar I have Stampede, a very integral part of the build. Deals decent damage, always crits, which is nice with Crit Surge. Provides 2 AoE dots for Azureblight and most importantly allows you to stay in range with your target and keep dealing damage with your other AoE dots. Vigor, very needed for survivability, lets you stay in fights a bit longer than you would otherwise, before you need to streak away and or dark deal. Bond armaments, mostly here for the Betrug protection passive, but can also be used for some nice extra damage before charging in, for example, or if people are out of rev slice range. The passive stamina and light attack damage also increase overall damage, which is nice. Streak, our main CC and escape, undodgeable and blockable CC that deals damage and is really important for securing certain kills, as well as for surviving. Rev Slice, very cheap and powerful finisher that deals AoE damage, perfect when used after burst. And a ultimate onslaught for those tankier targets which might require a bit of extra burst to down. Also empowers the Azureblight procs, making them hit for around 6k damage in noCP. And on off-bar, race against time, main snare and root removal, very important for mobility. Also grants the extra crit damage and major expedition after use. Deadly Cloak, an AoE dot for Azureblight that also procs a weapon glyph from off-bar every second, even while on main bar. Also gives us major protection for a few seconds thanks to Black Rose dual wield. Hurricane, another AoE dot with long duration for Azureblight that deals good damage and grants us more movement speed and resistances. It's also good for revealing Nightblades. Crit Surge, our source of major brutality, and also provides a lot of healing, It is very easy to proc the heal with all the AoE damage this build has. Dark Deal helps a lot with sustain and survivability, pretty much a must-have. Not exactly a burst heal, but can save your life very often if used correctly. And as ultimate here, Charged Atronach. Here pretty much used to activate the Daedric Protection passive while on the off power, but can sometimes be dropped for area denial if Onslaught isn't an option, for example. Right, so that's all the skills covered. While this build is mostly made for noCP, these are the CPs I'd run. My Stamsorc is an orc, but as race you can really go with almost anything. With Bosmer or Redguard I'd swap from Serpent to Warrior, and with Imperial or Argonian I'd also go with Warrior, but swap one Chivalry from weapon damage to Stamina regen to maintain about the same sustain as with Orc. With any other race, stick to Serpent Mundus. These are the stats you should have after following this guide. So that's all. I hope you've enjoyed the build video, and I hope you'll enjoy this build as much as I have. If you have any questions or feedback, let me know in the comments below, and as always, thank you for watching and see you next time.